We are privileged to have Dr. Nagaraj Paturi with us. He is here to present folk art all around us, a talk on how folk art can live in everyday spaces, sustaining memory, identity, and community wisdom. Dr. Paturi, the floor is yours.
అంబా పరాకు దేవి పరాకు మమ్మేలు శ్రీ శారదాంబా పరాకు. This is the invocation song's first line for the Kuchipudi tradition, Kuchipudi dance tradition. Those who are seniors here may remember the days when there was this whole controversy of whether Kuchipudi has to be accepted as a classical tradition. There was a huge hue and cry that Kuchipudi has to be called only a folk tradition, not a classical one. But finally, they accepted Kuchipudi as a classical tradition. They gave a place to it. And then comes this question of whether Bharatanatyam is a classical tradition. Whether Sadir was classical enough. Whether Javalis were folk songs or classical songs. Whether Kshetraya was composing classical lyrics or folk lyrics. When you say Kshetraya was drawing it from Annamaya, whether Annamaya was composing folk or classical lyrics. Annamaya himself composed a book called Sankirtana Lakshanam in Sanskrit that was later translated into Telugu by his grandson. There he is very transparent, very vocal. He says he was composing Deshi. He uses the word Deshi. And he, in Sanskrit, remember, in Sanskrit, talks about how Deshi has to be composed, not Marga. He was not talking about Marga. And he had no hesitation in accepting that he was composing Deshi only. And if someone today says that Annamaya was all doing only folk, not classical at all, he has no qualms about it. This is the whole situation of this whole folk or classical, what do you do, whether you're doing folk or classical, that has led to the whole problem of the controversy around the word folk. Next slide. The word folk was coming into India when the British started using the word folklore. And the word folklore was used by a British researcher. He was a British hobbyist also, we can say, William Thompson. And now, today, when people go back to the history of the composition of the word folklore, coinage of the word folklore, they see that those were the days in England when nationalism and romanticism were going together. English nationalism, it was English nationalism, remember. For English nationalism, they thought the slogan, we hear the slogan, India lives in its villages. You may be surprised to know that it was a recoinage of the slogan in England those days called England lives in its villages. And people like William Thomson were worried about industrialization, technology, and they were concerned about their nation that lives in its villages was getting lost. And they were trying to preserve that nation living in its villages, and that's how the word folklore got coined. And you look at the word folklore, both the words folk and lore are Anglo-Saxon. In the coinage of the word itself, William Thomson was anti-classical. He was anti-Greek, anti-Latin. He was trying to do something like what we do in Tamil today. We prefer using Nattupadangal or something like that instead of saying folk songs or some Sanskrit word like Janapada Gita or something like that, Gramina Gita. Because we see an attachment for our Deshi or Deshya, native, local vocabulary. That's what William Thomson was also doing when he was using Anglo-Saxon words, folk and lore. But the words came here. The whole folklore research that we see today was an inspiration from the British officials doing research on Indian folklore. Actually, historically, that's interesting that more than the officers, their wives were doing folklore research on Indian folklore. Because they had all their time at their disposal, it was their hobby. Most of the folklore research by the British in India was a hobby research for the women in the families. And when Indian scholars, I'm saying scholars, they're not homemakers, they were scholars, they saw that the British were doing research on Indian folklore. They thought, oh, something worthy is there in this, that the white person is doing research on this material, and then they started collecting folklore. And they started using the word also. They started using the word folklore also. But then they started wondering about what this lore is all about. Folk, okay. Folk could be village, related to village. Lore, what is this lore? Then in different Indian languages, they translated lore in different words. In Telugu, which is my mother tongue, they translated folklore as Janapada Vijnanamu, but at a very later time. But in the beginning, they used to use words like Palle Padalu, Palle Patalu, like Nattupadangal. They preferred these local words. Palle is a non-Sanskrit local Telugu word. So Palle Padalu, they started using. And gradually, the research on what was there with them already started. They started collection. It was all collection every time. This happens. Whenever some foreign thing comes to you, you always respond by saying, it is a way of trying to understand what the other person is telling you. So then when somebody says folklore, we have it. Something else, we have it. Then we compare it to what they are saying, and then we try to understand. But gradually, people began to realize that the collection that was being done by the scholar folklorists of India was also being done from, say, for example, Pengal Padangal, women's songs, Strila Patalu in Telugu, were being collected. From where they were collecting? From the city dwelling Brahmin women, senior women in the family who were singing the songs. They were singing marriage songs, they were singing puberty songs. Do you know that there are puberty songs? There are puberty celebrations, puberty rituals. When there was the Shabarimalai whole thing that was happening, there was a group of women who were calling themselves waiting women. Ready to wait was the group. And the other group, which was agreeing with the Shabarimalai rules, called itself Happy to Bleed group. Who are happy to bleed? Women who are waiting, who are ready to wait to go to Shabarimalai at the right age, and they are truly happy to bleed because they celebrate puberty. And this celebration happens through songs, puberty songs. And Srila Patalu included these puberty songs. So when you say folk art is all around us, when we say us, we actually are placing ourselves inside a city, inside an elite family, inside a non-rural family, and we are imagining folk art to be around these city-dwelling elite families. But the true history of folklore or true factuality of folklore is that it is within you. You sang marriage songs, you sing marriage songs, you sing puberty songs, you sing thread marriage songs, you sing all the songs all around your life, and they are in everyday spaces because they happen throughout the Shodasha Samskaras. All the 16 samskaras have songs, and those are folk songs. The blessing of YouTube is that now it is not monopolized by a particular television channel, that it telecasts only a certain selected aspect of culture. All these marriage songs, puberty songs, all kinds of songs are Harati songs, Mangala Harati songs are all now on YouTube. All oldies, grandmas, grannies. One young boy in a family wants to give some kind of good pastime for a granny in the family. He creates a YouTube channel and asks, "Oh, Granny, go on singing your Mangalarati songs." And these are all now on YouTube. Now, folk art is all around us through YouTube also, but it has always been all around us because this idea of folk being only Nade is not correct. Folk being only Palle, folk being only village is not correct. Because the Western society always saw these schisms, these divisions between village and the city to be very, very important. In the late 80s, when Ford Foundation wanted to create a new research group, research scholars in folklore, they conducted workshops on folklore research. And then they introduced words like folkloristics, like linguistics. And professors from United States used to come here to teach folkloristics. And they started teaching, introducing words like urban folklore. Then they said, what people were wondering, what is this urban folklore? They said, picnic songs are urban folklore. City jokes are urban folklore. Eve teasing songs on the school campuses, university campuses, college campuses, eve teasing songs are urban folklore. Then many Indian students in those workshops started retorting, rebelling against the American teachers and started saying, what is all this nonsense? Why should there be picnic songs? Why should we be working on picnic songs or eve teasing songs or the so-called urban jokes? If you want to work on folklore material from the city, we already have folklore in the city. Because Bharat has been, we can also say, notorious for having different stages of history. This is a Marxist vocabulary. In Marxist vocabulary, they say different stages of history live together in India. Because a flight flies, an aeroplane flies above a buffalo that leaves cow dung on the road. A herd of sheep goes grazing up the hill and a helicopter goes across the same hill. This is this country, a weird country. For them, it's weird that different stages of history are living together. Whether it is weird for them or not, it's a reality, it's a fact that here in India, the rural urban division was never there. All the Indian cities are big villages. Chennai is a very huge village. All the metro cities are very big villages. We have Karagam right in Chennai. We have every village goddess. See, if they write a book, they call it Village Goddess and Village Goddess Festival. Gangamma temple is right in Chennai. Yellamma temple is right in Chennai. You have all the village goddesses in a metro city called Chennai. So, is Chennai a village or a metro city? In Bharat, this division of city and village is very, very problematic, very, very tricky. We have all these, what they call different strands of culture living together. So, folk art is all around us because there is no us and them here. This us and them here, I the other, we the other, itself is a problematic construct for India, for Bharat. We are folk, not because the inferiority-ridden American scholars are telling, they are inferiority-ridden because they don't have classical at all. Their history is very recent. It's a very young country, it's a baby country. And for such a baby country, how can they have classical? So they don't have folk also, they don't have rural lore. Nattu Padangal, how can America have Nattu Padangal? Nadu itself is not there. For America, there is no Nadu. So they create these words like urban folklore. But for us, we have all these strands of culture live together. We, the city dwellers, are not also. We are a not city. we are not in harem. So, folklore is all around us, folk art is all around us, because the word folk itself is a problem for us. How did we want to solve the problem? In North India, they wanted to solve the problem by using the word lok. But that itself is a problem. Recently, there was an event organized in Hyderabad called Lok Manthan. Then they called me, they asked me, "Sir, can you show us experts in Hyderabad in folklore?" They did not know that it was folklore, actually. Actually, the organizers came to me, "We are organizing Lok Manthan. Can you show experts?" Then I told them, what you call Lok Manthan is brainstorming about folklore only. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of folklore scholars just within Hyderabad. I can invite them, but please remove the word Lok in that. Just if you remove the word Lok in the title, Lok Manthan, then if you say it is folklore or Janapada Vijnanam or something like that, many people can come. Same thing with Chennai, same thing with Tamil Nadu. So if you use the word Lok, it's not communicable, it's not intelligible to South Indian states. So that's a problem. But still, these words, like all the alternative words, are being attempted to overcome the problem created by the British-born word folklore and the American-born words like urban folklore and all that. Next slide, please. The next problem in the word folk art is art itself. Where is art? Do the people who actually perform folk art, we use the word perform also. Perform itself is a problem. Do they perform? For example, kolam. When a woman does kolam in the front yard of a house, does she perform? Is it a performance? When some circular dance is done with a folk song, as part of a ritual, are they actually performing? Do the forest-dwelling women, when they do circular dances, as part of their activity, are they performing? If there is a performance, who is the audience and who is the performer here? So, performing art again. Do they call it art? If a woman who does kolam call it art? And what is art for them? We use words like ritual and art. Ritual art also. Even the word ritual has become a problematic word because as a connotation in English, it means something that is done without heart in it. You do it as a routine. Something that is done as a routine is called ritual. But for us, we have words like karma. We have our own karmas. And these, what they call rituals, are karma for us. For example, any Amman Koil, if you go, everything that happens there in Amman Koils is all basically a karma, a puja karma, a bhakti karma. And when the same karma is brought to Republic Day parade, when the same karma is brought to a cultural festival in the United States or into Kalakshetra, it comes onto the stage. It becomes art. Same Karagam. Karagam is not art for the Karagam participant. But when it is brought onto the stage, it becomes an art, Karagam art. And nowadays there are placards also. I am a Karagam artist. a beautiful Karagam artist, excellent Karagam artist. But he was never an artist from the point of view of insiders. He was a participant. And the spirit possession that happens in the Amman Koil festivals and all that, it's not art at all. But you have to do spirit possession as an art on the stage. If you take it to Republic Day parade, you have to get possessed as an artist, or you have to be an artist of spirit possession. This is so ridiculous that if you take these words and tell them that, oh, you spirit possession artist, I am going to take you to United States to give a performance, that will be so offending. It is so offensive. So, art itself is another problem. In the picture that you see, this is a Cherial painting. Cherial paints are used for a certain kind of folk art performance, folk narrative performance, which are called Patam narratives, Patam performing activities. Patam is this painting. If you see this, you have the Patam artist himself is showing how the whole village activities, all village activities have songs in them. You have irrigation songs, water is drawn from the well, and while drawing water from the well, irrigation songs are sung. You have agricultural work songs. Inside the house also, you have the grinding stone songs. You have the stamping stone songs. You have songs for everything in life. The whole life cycle that you see in this picture in the Cherial painting, it has got songs in it. So, can I call grinding song as a folk art? Go to a granny and tell her that, Granny, you're performing a wonderful folk art called grinding song. She'll scold you. She'll chide you. Hey, please leave it to me. I am singing song just as part of my grinding. Is that not? So, for them, it's life. What you call art is life for them. What you call art is what they just do. Art is done. So when we say everyday spaces, the title everyday spaces is used. It is everyday spaces because we are doing it all the time. We are living art all the time. We are doing art all the time. And what we do becomes art for those who want to call it art. Yeah. Okay, so you have both these as problems. Next slide, please. We were talking about sustenance. In the pre-modern times, folk art was sustained as part of village, collective. I don't know how many of the present generation know that there was a system called Jajmani system in the villages as an economy. Jajmani system is not even barter. You don't exchange goods or services for the other goods or services. All the goods and services are provided without price. All goods and services in the Jajmani system of the village were considered priceless. You know the word priceless? Priceless is so valuable. So, at the end of a crop season, the produce of the village was shared among all the jatis of the village. That was the payback. That was done for the sustenance of all the hereditary occupations of all the jatis. So, folk artists also were sustained as part of that. Folk artists were also, there were folk artist jatis. A bull art performer, Gangireddulata performer, is a jati. It's a jati. And all the folk art performing jatis were also sustained along with the other occupational jatis at the end of the crop season by sharing the produce of the village. And another very, very important aspect of jati we generally miss is that there are jati Puranas. Each jati has its own jati Purana, and there are performers of jati Purana both in narrative art forms and theatrical art forms. And these are sustained by the jati whose Purana is narrated by the performing art jati. This jati Purana performing jati is an upajati, subjati of the jati of which the Purana is narrated. The jati patronizes them, sustains them. And next slide, please. Jati Puranas are very important. They have been sustained by all the jatis because it is identity. Identity, group identity, community identity was considered so prominent, so important, so valuable that each jati paid to support the Jati Purana performance in huge amounts of wealth. You may be surprised to know that the tanning community, leather occupation community, which is called Sambavan in Tamil Nadu, Madiga in Telugu, Chamar in North India, according to the present narrative, they are considered to be the poorest and the most suffering. But they have 6 performing art jatis to be patronized by them. 6 performing art jatis perform their Jati Purana. They were sustained by them. That shows their economy was vibrant and dynamic, and they were able to sustain their performing arts. You have this bottom picture. This one. That instrument is called Jamidiki Pamba. And it's a very interesting instrument because it has got both percussion and string included in the same. And these are the same community, the leather tanning community, performing for the leather tanners. Their village goddess stories, Jati Puranas, and all kinds of songs. This particular performer became very popular nowadays in Telugu because he was employed in a movie for a particular movie song. And now he is a YouTube celebrity from the Srikakulam area, from the Vijayanagaram Srikakulam area. And next slide, please. How we are sustaining all these people in modern culture, you are able to see that we have street side crowd around performances we had street side crowd around performances. In one of my research articles, I created these 2 words, street side performances and crowd around performances and procession performances. We are gradually losing all of them. Processions today are being called as carnivals because the West has carnivals. We too are using the word carnivals. No, procession performances were part of if there is a jatra, performing artists used to line up in teams, and all these performances used to be part of these procession performances. And because of Peta, Beta, Gata, all our wonderful monkey performances, all our bear performances, snake charming performances, all these animal performances which were used to be street side crowd around performances, we are gradually losing. We are losing our folk magicians because of all dominance from the magicians here. We are losing our acrobats. We are losing our jugglers. All these were street side crowd around performances. Mostly because I'm very, very sorry to share this, that we are considering all these people as beggars. I'm very sorry. We are calling them beggars. When they come to perform acrobatics or juggling, magic in the street, we see them in the urban areas and call them beggars. They are artists, my friends. They are all folk artists. They are all our own artists. They have been sustaining our culture. And we are killing them because they are offended by these words. If you want to weep, weep for the next millennium, because you are responsible. All those who are calling these artists as beggars are responsible for they stopping to perform. All those who used to come door to door to perform are being called as beggars. And that is offending to them, and that is gradually disappearing. That is our urban sustenance. Great way of sustaining our folk art performances. Next slide, please. The organizers asked me to share my work. As it was said in the introduction itself, my work is for the last 4 decades, so I have worked on, to say the least, hundreds of folk art forms. So I cannot share the whole work, but as an example, I am sharing my work on the Gorava community. These are the performing community who perform for the shepherd community, which is called Kuruba in Karnataka, Kuruma in Telangana, Kuruba in the Rayalaseema part of Andhra Pradesh. They are shepherds. Their god is Mailara. There is a book called Gods of Western Deities, Deities in the Western India by Gundar Zandaimer. It is about Maharashtra, so they live in Maharashtra also. But this particular costume belongs only to Karnataka and Rayalaseema. Next slide, please. They perform a dance. I lived in their villages for some months to create a Natya Shastra for their dance, because when I was asking them about their dance, what do you call this? What do you call this hasta? What do you call this chari and all that? They were not able to understand that language. They said, they used to laugh and say, oh, hasta, this is your word. You educated people, you create all nonsensical vocabulary and all that. But after living for 3 months in one of their villages, I collected the hasta names and the chari names for their dance, created a very small booklet, which is almost a kind of a Natya Shastra for their dance. Next slide, please. The same community, the same Gauravas, are called Oggu people in Telangana. They perform Oggu Katha. The legendary Marxist revolutionary singer, Gaddar, who is known all over the places, he imitates this kind of costume, singing style and all that. And this is, they perform the same stories. Mailara, Mallanna, Birappa are their village gods, and the shepherd gods, the shepherd jati gods. Next slide, please. The same community has a big percussion instrument which is called dollu, a very huge one. They perform dollu dances. You are able to see here in the next slide a big team of them performing a very collective nritta just with the dollus. Next slide, please. Now, our sustenance urban, modern sustenance of these communities is KCR, for example, when he was the chief minister, he was thinking that by giving more sheep to the shepherds, these things can get sustained. But actually, they are not, they don't need such a sustenance because, next slide, please. The Ogukatha performer is with the President of India, the then President of India. Next slide, please. You have these Ogukatha, previous slide, earlier slide, please. These Ogukatha performers performing for the shepherd community. The shepherd community has shifted into milk vending, and milk vending is a highly lucrative business today. They're able to sustain their folk art performance because of their own sustenance. So when the patron jati gets sustained, the patronized jati also gets sustained. So all these gimmicks, dramas like giving sheep and all that is not required. This is just for a show that they do. But actually, next slide, please. What people have to understand is that this kind of narrative art performances are there, and the artist who draws these art drawings and paintings in the scroll form, it's a scroll. Actually, this part is a roll. The upper part that you are able to see is a roll, and it is unrolled, it is unraveled while the performance goes on. And as you are able to see, a stick is used to show the picture of what is being performed in the narration. And it is from there that we get all these cherial paintings. And in all the handicraft showrooms and all the exhibitions, there is a big sale of these paintings happening nowadays. But they were not sustained by your exhibitions, my friends. They were not sustained by our paint frame hangings in the buildings. They were sustained by the folk artists. They were paying them to get the drawings drawn. Next slide, please. Next slide. Nowadays, they are being invited to different universities and colleges to teach the students that kind of folk art painting style. They are conducting workshops. That is a workshop picture. Next slide, please. They create dolls also because there is a community called Mandechula which performs for the Golla Jati, another pastoral community. And these Mandechulas in their Jati Purana, they use these dolls to perform. And these artists is the head of that family, Cherial painting family. Next slide, please. So all these Cherial paintings that you are able to see now in hotels, in high-class buildings, on the walls, they come from a Jati Purana scroll narrative performance, and it is these performers who has been sustaining them, and now the new form of sustenance is coming to them by selling the frames of those narratives. So we thank you if I was emotional at times, but I just want to remind you that as long as we don't respect our senior members of our own family who sing Mangalarati songs and consider them to be outdated, and as long as we consider all our folk art performers in the cities as beggars, we cannot claim any sustenance. We cannot claim any pride of sustaining folk art. Basically, all that we need is a right perspective of how the folk art has been sustained and has been living everywhere, all around us, including our own seniors in our own families, without a difference between a city and village. Once we realize that if we start performing, if we start doing columns, if we start singing Mangalartis, if we start singing marriage songs and puberty songs, and if we respect our street magicians, respect our street acrobats and jugglers, then we'll be doing the actual sustenance of identity, we'll be doing the actual sustenance of whether we like to call it folk or not, it's a different problem. Our art, which is actually sustained by our rituals also, our bhakti, our karma, our own sanskriti. Thank you.
This is for Nagaraj sir. So he mentioned about the various Jati Puranas. So is there any books available or any materials available around it to go and refer?
Work is being done now for the last 2-3 decades. In Telugu, particularly in the 2 Telugu states, a lot of work is being done. One unfortunate development is that there is a twisting of the narrative done in these recent researchers about why these Jati Puranas, first of all, came into existence and all that. But you can be discerning in your own using of the documentation that they do. First of all, the documentation is needed, right? So they do the documentation, but they add their own analysis from their own ideological perspectives. That material is there. Unfortunately, it is all in Telugu. But some of that has come into English also, particularly the leather tanner communities, Jamba Puranam. Because one Scottish professor, Simon Charsley, was also involved. He published it in English, not the whole documentation, but his own analysis, some amount of English translation for that particular community. But some of these Puranas have been done into already poetic works in medieval times. For example, in Tamil itself, the Vishwakarma Puranam, Vishwa Brahmana Puranam, is already a kavya in Tamil. And same in Hindi and Telugu and other languages also. And the Weaver Puranam, Padmashali Puranam, interestingly it is called Padma Puranam, confusing with the original Padma Puranam which is in the Upa Puranas. But that Padma Puranam text is also there as a poetic work, as a kavya work. So be in touch with me. There is a whole work on the entire system of Jati Puranas. There is a symposium conducted by Indica on the entire Jati Purana system. So I can supply more material on that.